ברוכים הבאים לתנועת הימין האמיתי, שמי חיים בן פסח. סרטון זה מוקדש לעילוי נשמות מלכה בת מאיר ואלגרה בת שלמה.
I wanted to start by asking you about an Instagram posting of yours that I watched in the last few moments, where you spoke of a true win in this conflict and said it should involve occupation, displacement, and settlement. What do you mean?
I mean justice. What I mean is very simple. Justice. The land of Israel belong to the people of Israel, only to the people of Israel. And as long as the Arab occupation of parts of our land will continue, they will not stop until they get a good appetite and will wish for more.
But when you say displacement, what are you saying should happen to the people who live on those lands now? And by those people, I'm referring to the Palestinian people.
You're referring to who?
The Palestinian people.
I think we should start talking the truth. There is no Palestinian people. There is an Arab nation, which I respect as any other human being. But by using false names and creating false reality, we're not going to achieve any solution. Definitely not a solution of peace. A little history lesson will show you immediately that there is no Palestinian nation. Where were those Palestinians in before the 1967 war, the 6-Day War? Did they ask for a Palestinian state in Judea and Samaria and Gaza when those territories were controlled by Arab countries, by Jordan and Egypt? No, they're asking for the last square inch of where is there a Jewish sovereignty at that moment. So this whole invention of Palestinian nation is a weapon in order to destroy the Jewish sovereignty on their holy land. That's the whole story here. So you will excuse me. You will excuse me if I will not. So I'm asking your,
May I ask a question?
1 second. I'm just finishing. So you will excuse me if I will not compromise with this language that represents the biggest lie in the 20th century. There is no Palestinian nation.
Okay, you have made that point and people will have heard it, and you know only too well that a lot of people listening to that will hugely run counter to what you have just said. I wanted to ask you about international law and the view it has of the situation we're currently describing. All Israeli settlements are illegal under international law as they violate Article 49 of the Fourth Geneva Convention, which Israel ratified. And settlement expansion plans, and we're seeing more of those at the moment, are often used as a way to consolidate Israel's annexation of occupied territory, and that contravenes Article 2.4 of the UN Charter. How do you respond to that specifically in the light of what you've just said?
I will respond to everything you said, but I hope you'll give me the time to explain, because my English is not so great as yours. So please give me the time. First of all, the fact that huge majority will not agree with what I said about the existence of Palestinian nation does not mean it is not true. Truth and false is not about democracy. It's about
important on the international stage.
It's about reality. Okay, so I'm talking about facts over here, and not about majority or minority. Okay, that's first of all. I'm saying the truth. I'm connected to the true true one and only reality and history that there is. This is
my obligation. It's my obligation in this position to point out that what.
No, that's very well. I'm not angry at that.
No, I accept that, but I just wanted to make that point because that's clearly my job and what I'm here to do.
Definitely, that's definitely fine. I'm just saying that the argument that I'm wrong because they're the majority that will not agree with me is not realistic. Is not a factor in for my understanding what's right and what's wrong. If you're right, you're right. Even if most of the people do not agree with you, and you can go back to the story of the emperor new clothes. Everybody thought that the king is well dressed. Okay, but the one kid who said that the king is naked was obviously the right was connected to reality. So if I need to be that little boy who says the king is naked, I will. Okay, that's first of all. Now about your second point that you made about the international law. Okay, for very strange reason, this international law is not so bothered about what the Hamas did at the 7th of October.
It's absolutely condemned it in every way possible.
Oh no, that's not true. Now you're not saying the truth. The UN, okay, and the UN organization doing whatever they can in order to run away from that condemning. If they do it only after pressure and after and when they have no other, and with half of their mouth and so on. So I definitely don't agree with what you said right now. Now, I'll give you another example. How much is the international law dealing with a horrific thing that happened in Syria, in North Korea, in Russia, in China? You see that from some reason the international law is used specifically in much bigger scale against the Jews who trying to resettle their promised land.
Right, but I am not asking you about the international law as it applies to Russia or Syria or North Korea. I'm asking you about the international law as it applies to Israel.
Why?
Because that's why we invited you onto the program.
And what I'm trying to say that this is not the reason. But the international law is another, just like the concept of Palestinian. It's a kind of weapon that you use, that you try to use, or language that you try to use because you have an agenda. Where it's comfortable for you, you use it, and when it's not comfortable, you don't use it. Now,
it's the law agreed internationally. It's nothing to do with an agenda. It's what countless countries have sat down and agreed upon over many decades of dispute and discussion. Does that count for nothing?
And for some reason, to the most horrific things that happens all over the world, this law do not work. And when the Jews are doing the most moral thing in the world, coming back to their promised land that they never forget for 2,000 years, there's no nation that has a connection to a piece of land stronger than the Jews to the biblical promised land. And you're coming to me with this ridiculous concept of some international law which do not exist, by the way. It's all the difference between the international law and the regular law is that the international law refers only to those nations that, as you said, accept it on themselves. Now, you're right that Israel, unfortunately, accept this ridiculous code on itself, and it should stop doing so.
Geneva Convention, which Israel
yes, and it should, and what I think that was a terrible mistake of my country.
Okay. Fine, you have made that abundantly clear. Can I go back to where I began?
Yes.
This word displacement. I know you won't accept that these people are Palestinians. For the sake of this question, would you mind at least acknowledging the existence of people who are not Israelis on that land? What should happen to them if your displacement policy is put forward?
Okay, right now in Gaza, there are 800,000 Arabs left.
Some of whom are starving.
Will you listen to me till the end? Right now, there is no 2 million, no 1 million. There are 800,000 Arabs in the Gaza Strip right now. And the only reason that they are still there and they're not leaving, as the huge majority of their neighbors wished to do and did, and actually paid before the 7th of October thousands of dollars to leave this place and find their future in a much better place. The reason why they don't leave is because different forces all over the world don't want to let them leave because of a political agenda. They would love to leave the place.
Why should they leave? It's their home. They live there.
They should leave because it's a terrible place for them. And most of them, the fact is that they left in the last.
No, they're still there. There are hundreds of thousands of them still there.
All I'm saying is open the gates and let them. Don't stop them from fulfilling what they wish to do. They are being used as a political card by evil forces. They're being used and called a fake nation in order to become a weapon against the Jews.
And
Now, the fact that the international law, I'll tell you immediately, the international law was never raised when they shot missiles against Israeli cities during the last 30 years since Israel left the Gaza Strip.
Well, once again, that was widely condemned by the international community on every occasion.
It was widely condemned. I disagree with what you said. What you said now is not truth. It's the opposite of the truth. It was not wildly condemned. Basically, the world accepted. Okay? Israel left the Gaza Strip. They continue shot missiles against Israel, which ended with what we got at the 7th of October. And all this interview right now is about the bad Israelis and not the bad real occupiers that took our land and murder and raped and did what they did at the 7th of October, this is ridiculous. You putting yourself, my dear friend, on the evil side of humanity right now, at the way this interview is happening, because all this interview, and you cannot say it's not, it's about how bad the Israelis are and how difficult it is for them. Well, these people. These people. Let me just finish that. These people voted. 80% of them voted for Hamas. This is not an organization separated from the people of Gaza. The people of Gaza are Hamas. Totally Hamas. Okay.
They're not totally Hamas.
They all responsible. You are. Wait. So let me ask you a question. Don't you have any kind of responsibility to the leadership you're voting for?
Let me ask you about.
Why don't you answer?
Because I'm asking questions rather than answering them. Let me ask you about where you think all of those people should go if they were to leave along the lines that you described.
Exactly, we're about 1 million left already. Okay? They decided to go to Dubai. They decided to go to Europe. Many of them going to Turkey. They have 22 Arab countries that talk their language. The British Empire already cut the land of Israel to two in the 20s. When it was actually Winston Churchill before the war, and created Palestinian state on the land that was supposed to belong to the Jews on the eastern side of the Jordan River. It's called Jordan today. They have the whole world to go to. Definitely all the Arab world to go to. The Jews have only one place, and this is the land of Israel. Right. And this is the land of Israel.
Create thousands upon thousands of refugees and then see what happens, and you hope they'll be okay. That's roughly where we're coming from. on that, as far as I can tell.
You don't say just throw this sentence and continue. My obligation is to care about my people. Let me tell you something very simple. There was no Nukhba forces that crossed the channel in 1930 in World War II from France, German Nukhba forces that slaughtered kids in London and raped women in any other city of England, and yet you, the British people, burned to ashes every German city you could get to, including men, women, and children. You are the last one to come with any complaints to us when we when we wish to take care of our own people, our own nation, on our only little land, holy land that we got here in the Middle East.
Can I ask you about the situation on the West Bank specifically? Again, I'm going to quote United Nations figures, which you may contest, but that's obviously for you to do if you choose to. But according to the United Nations Office for Humanitarian Affairs, and these are figures between the 7th of October and the 20th of February this year, there have been settler killings of 8 Palestinians, 111 injured, and the displacement of more than 1,200, including nearly 600 children. 561 incidents of Israeli settler attacks against the Palestinians in that time.
I hear those figures and I laugh. I really laugh. It is so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Never happened. First of all, never happened. It is so ridiculous. You have here killers. It's like I don't know even where to start. I mean, look, if a raper catching a woman and she's screaming and yelling and she's biting his finger, okay, and then you say she was violent. This is what you do right now. With these questions.
Let me put the figure to you.
The figures. Why should you lie again? Why should you lie again? Yes, you are. You're lying to your people. Listen, I live here. No, about the United Nations. The United Nations that you're quoting, basically are on the evil side today. You're helping the terror. You're helping terror. You can quote for today. Look. There must be a realistic base that we are talking and referring to. The United Nations is not a realistic base. The United Nations is more part of a terror organization today. What are you talking about? Well, the murder, listen to me, good mister. The terrorists coming from the Arab side, the attackers, the killers, the slaughters, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I live here, I see what happens here. Look, I'm willing to answer all your questions, but if you're putting a big lie like that on the table as a fact, there's nothing to discuss.
I attributed it to the United Nations, who say that 503 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank.
I'm sorry for using this language. This is the biggest bullshit I heard for so many times, so long that I cannot even refer to it. Okay, the situation here is exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. Now, if you want to live in dreams which fits your imaginations, fine, go ahead. I'm telling you that the situation is 100%, 180 degrees opposite. The Arabs are killing the Jews, and not the opposite as they're trying to show it. Okay, that's the situation. Now, please ask me questions and about the true reality and not about the false reality.
on this program since October the 7th, there have been occasions when we have sat down with Israelis and Palestinians who are working together, whether it's in the business community, whether the arts world, the music world, the sporting world, to try and make the situation that you and others face in the region better. Are they so wrong to try to do that?
Besides the fact you use the word Palestinian again, which I don't agree on. I agree with what you just said. Whenever an Arab people or any other Gentile, it doesn't matter if he's an Arab or any other nation, wish to work together in peace and not taking away my land from me and not to kill me, my door is open. Go ahead. We're not looking for war. We're not looking for, God forbid, bloodshed. But the minute the minute you did use the word Palestinian, you basically said that I am an occupier on my own land. That the land belonged to different nation. So basically, you declared war with these naive sentence. The minute you're saying the word Palestinian, you basically declared war on me because you basically said that my land do not belong to me anymore. It belongs to different nation. Okay? So just take off the word Palestinian from the sentence, and I agree with every word you said.
So your door is open, but it's only open if you won't refer to them as Palestinian and if they all leave Gaza where they currently live.
My door is fully open to any kind of good relationship with any nation in the world as long as they accept the fact that the land of Israel, the biblical land of Israel, belongs to the Jews and only to the Jews.
So your door is open, but solely on your terms.
Oh, I'm willing to talk to you only if you'll give me half of London. Is your door open to me as well? With this wish of mine? So, can we talk about it?
I think you know well that London is not in my gift. The point I was making is that if you only open your door when the people walking in already know they've lost before they even pushed it open,
no one is lost.
What's the point of them walking through it?
No one is lost.
They will see it as a loss.
Well,
a huge loss.
If you want to declare war without saying it and wish to me to give you my land, you're basically declaring war, and you'll find war, and I'm going to win that war. Let me tell you, I'm going to win that war. The path you're taking, that definitely represented in this interview, the path you're taking will promise that the war will never end, the bloodshed will never end. So, and one of the forces that will be responsible for it is the BBC. Because when you're taking this side, the evil side of history, and you should understand that the Jewish nation is coming back to their promised land after 2,000 years, exactly as it's mentioned in the Bible. Okay, it's a biblical move. What's happening right now? It is a promise. It's a moral promise and moral direction for the redemption for the entire humanity. It is something that the evil forces of humanity are trying to stop. So you should understand that the reason why the Balfour Declaration was given from the first place was exactly because of that. Because the good side of the British nation realized after World War I that we need a different message that will come to the world from the promised land. to the entire humanity, that the Jews has to come back to their promised land and create their nation again and radiate from here to the entire world. The true message from the true message, the true moral that all the believers in the world know that will come from Zion.
So,
And those forces that you represent right now in this interview, who trying with all kind of lies, like Palestinian nation, like Jews are that murdering Palestinians, so-called Palestinians, and so on, trying to stop it, stop this amazing redemption of what we see here when the Jews are creating their promised land again. Basically connect themselves to the evil side of history. You should understand that.
amidst all of this, there are still significant numbers of Israeli hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza. How does anything that we have discussed in the last 15 minutes or so help them?
If Israel would have won that war in the first week, as it should, react just as you, the British people, acted in Dresden, in Hamburg, just as the Americans acted in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, show the evil its right place in the world. There's no place to that kind of Islamo-Nazism in history, in the world. If Israel would have acted the way it should have, the war would have been behind us already after the first or the second week, because the IDF is much stronger, and then there would have been no humanitarian, so-called humanitarian aid to who? To the Hamas. No fuel. No, because you cannot breathe in these.
You talked of Hiroshima, of Nagasaki, of Dresden.
We did not. We do not need to do this. Excuse me for not explaining. All we needed to do is to close the water, close the gas, close the electricity, and let them come out of the tunnels with the refugees asking for mercy and for their lives. Instead of that, we did exactly the opposite. Stupidly.
Punishment, in other words, collective punishment.
What do you
people living in Gaza were punished?
Who do you think the war is against? Excuse me, who's the enemy? Who is the enemy?
Everyone living in Gaza.
When you fought against the Germans, you fought against the Luftwaffe or against Germany? Answer me. If Churchill, if your prime minister in World War II, when you were attacked by the German Luftwaffe, would tell the British people, we have a war against the Luftwaffe, who would have won the war? You or the Germans? Answer me. On one hand, you're telling me that they are a nation. On the other hand, and on the other hand, when this so-called nation voting by huge amount of 80% for Hamas, you're saying no, they're not Hamas. They're good people. There are some organic aliens that came from Mars named Hamas, and the problem is with them, not with the poor people of Gaza. You understand the problem. I'll tell you two things. First of all, the way to release them, I told you already. Okay? And yes, the war is against every human being that voted for Hamas, that made Hamas his leadership. The war is against the people of Gaza. That's the war. The fact that we're talking about Hamas is another kind of lie, and that's why the war never ends. This is first of all. Now, in wider scale, a true leader of Israel should think about the hostages of next year. You know why we got all these hostages? Because we released terrorists in all kind of deals before, including Sinwar himself, who sat in Israeli prison. So sometimes leaders have to think of the interest of the entire nation and not only of the individual, and this way they saving lives in the future. So your answer lays between these two corners.
Okay. I think we'll draw the conversation to a close. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
It.
Bye.
I wish you well. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.